All righty. Good afternoon. It is 2:01. I have just come in from a run. That's why I'm wearing my athletic gear. It is hot outside. And I'm coming on Tuesday at 2 o'clock to do a help session. So I don't have anybody here yet. I've already done this video at 10 o'clock, and I took my 10 o'clock help video and I put it in the YouTube playlist. So I'm about to do the exact same thing I did earlier. Actually, I put it not in the help playlist. The video I filmed at 10 o'clock was all about this strategy. And how can you use this strategy to help you with your work today, rewriting. So I do have one person here. I'm not sure who that person is. I'm not sure if that person has a question, but you can type your questions into the chat and I can answer those for you. But I'm pretty much going to do the same exact video too again. I'm just doing it again to see if I have any more people join and to make myself available to answer any questions about your story writing so far. So I'll give it another couple seconds and that person can make themselves known so that I know who I'm talking to. But I'm going to be on here for 18 minutes to talk about today's assignment. So I'll give it a couple more seconds, see if anyone jumps in. Okay. Do a few things over here. I'm getting my story from yesterday out in front of me because it's not going to work for me to do. Hello. Belinda, we just had a conference, so you're good to go ahead and just work on your rewriting, unless you've not watched this video earlier. I'm basically going to redo video 2. I have my story in front of me from yesterday. It is 5 pages long because I'm stretching out my story across 5 pages, like so. And tomorrow's lesson is all going to be about what goes on each page. But for today, you guys are selecting 2 pages from your story that you're going to completely rewrite. With a brand new piece of paper, you're going to take a part of your story and you're going to rewrite it completely. And this is the example that I did in the video. And right away, when you look at my rewrite, I wrote a lot more, but I also chunked it into little parts to help me. So that's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to kind of walk through what today's assignment is, and anyone that pops in can ask me questions. So today's video 1, I talked about this strategy. Today we're going to be rewriting important parts of your story. So that's the first step, is saying which part of my story is important and which part do I want to rewrite. But then I want you guys to notice how this author took a sentence and they turned it into a chunk. And they took this sentence and they turned it into a chunk. And then they took another short sentence and turned it into a chunk. So what they did is they wrote bit by bit with details. And that's exactly what my paper looks like too, if you guys notice right here. So it's chunk 1, chunk 2, and chunk 3. So just make that connection that if you set up your paper, it should kind of look like that little paper in the picture. And that was what video 1 was all about. Video 2, this help session, I think is actually a lot more useful. I know that I didn't really use this strategy as much as I used this one. So when you choose your page that you want to rewrite, for me it was page 1. Page 1 was short, but page 1 was really important to my story because it was the very beginning. This is a strategy called twin sentences. And that basically means for every sentence that you write, you have a second twin sentence. Twins are identical, they look alike, they're similar in a ton of ways, and that's how your sentences go. Your second sentence is very similar to the first because it talks about the same thing. So in your writing today, you want to take one sentence that you wrote and you want to add a second twin sentence. That's why you're going to completely rewrite your page. And these are the 3 things to ask yourself to help you with twin sentences. And so this is what I did, is I took my first page, my old page, And I actually read the first sentence and then I stopped. I'm breaking it down. It says, in the morning, I woke up earlier than usual. And I noticed that I talked about waking up, but then in my writing, I immediately started talking about getting Chester's carrier. So what I did is I said, I'm going to take this idea about waking up and I'm going to ask myself one of these questions. I'm going to say to myself, okay, in the morning, I woke up earlier than usual. What was it like when I woke up? What was it like when I did that? And so in my head, I'm saying, okay, I woke up earlier than usual. What was it like when I woke up? And I added this twin sentence. Ready? This is my new version. In the morning, I woke up earlier than usual. What was it like when I did that? I was really tired. Okay, I was exhausted when I had to wake up. Okay, but why was I exhausted? And then listen to my twin sentence. In the morning, I woke up earlier than usual. What was it like when I did that? I had gone to bed at 1 a.m., staying up while Ryan was on the phone with his mom. I felt exhausted, but knew that this was no time to sleep in. So by asking myself this question, I have a sentence. I say, what was it like when I did that? Now I wrote an entire chunk. I took one sentence and I turned it into a little small paragraph. And that helped me with my writing. Just like this. I did a little chunk. I took a sentence and I turned it to a chunk. Okay. And then I did the same thing. I took my old paper and I said, okay, now that I have that part written, let me look at my next part. I rummaged through my closet and grabbed Chester's pink animal carrier. And then I did this. I said, okay, I grabbed Chester's pink carrier. That's my first sentence. I'm going to make a twin. What did I do right after I grabbed his carrier? So I grabbed Chester's carrier. Right after, I carefully walked into the living room and set it down on the floor. I immediately came up with a twin sentence because I took this question and I used it to help me with my writing. Okay? All right, now I got to keep going though. I can't just stop there. So in my old draft, see how I'm looking back and forth? It says, I quickly searched the apartment for blankets and soft jackets. Okay, so I'm going to take that. I quickly searched my apartment for blankets and jackets. And then I'm going to say, okay, what happened right after that? I found something. So listen to how I change my writing. I said, I'm looking for blankets, and then I found some. And this is how I did it in my writing. I said, I realized there was nothing soft inside. So I quickly searched the apartment for small blankets or soft sweaters to make things cozy. I decided on a warm towel and my softest pullover jacket. So I took my first sentence about looking for blankets and I made a twin sentence. What did I do right after I searched? I found something. And now when you look at my paper, I have a second chunk, not about waking up. My second chunk is about finding things for his carrier to make it soft. And then I continued on. Okay, my last sentence in my old draft, okay, I talked about Chester going to the vet. So I actually rewrote this last part because I wanted to continue saying, okay, what did I do right after that? So I found a warm towel. I found a soft jacket. What did I do right after that? I gently patted the walls of his carrier and laid a few of his favorite treats on the blankets. After all, Chester, there he is, was going to be spending 8 hours at the vet. So I asked myself the same question to help me with the twin. What did I do with all those blankets and jackets? What did I do right after? I patted it in his carrier. I gave him a few treats. And then after all, he was going to the vet. And look at my paper. Again, that helped me create my last chunk. None of this was there before, but I said, okay, what was the first part? I woke up. After I woke up, I got his carrier ready. And then after I found my materials, I packed it in and we were getting closer to going to the vet. So that's how I took my old page and I rewrote it. I touched the top, And I said, this part is about waking up. I touched the middle. Okay, this part is going to be about getting things. I touched the bottom. Okay, this part is about me putting it together. And then I used this work of twin sentences to really help me. So I used kind of both of these a little bit to rewrite my writing. Okay, so that was how I used the strategies to rewrite page 1. But now my work as a writer isn't done. That was just page 1. I'm going to go back through my story and say, what was a really important part of my story? Definitely page 3. That's where the trouble was. I'm going to pull out page 3 and I'm going to rewrite page 3 too. And I'm going to say, okay, what was the first part of my trouble? Chester started clawing me. Okay, what was the next part of the trouble? Chester, I tried to put him in and he was pushing against me. Okay, I had to really think about that for a second. And I'm breaking, not just what's the trouble, I'm saying, okay, the first part of the trouble was I got clawed by my cat really badly. And the next part of the story was that I actually tried to push him in and he pushed against me. And then the last part of my trouble, I'm actually going to talk about how I felt. I felt really, I was nervous and I was really concerned about this taking time. So that's me starting to rewrite page 3. Not started writing yet, I'm just talking to myself. What was the first part of this trouble? What was the middle part? And what was the end? And that's going to help me make my writing nice and long. Okay? All right. I have a few people here. I'm going to answer some questions before I go to my next conference. This is the same thing as video 2. So I'm going to put this in the help folder, but this is the same exact lesson as video 2. And I think if you watch this, you might have already said that to yourself. So I've got a question. It says, I'm having difficulties with my page 3, the trouble, because I don't know how to think or remember about that day. And this goes back to why it's so important to pick something that you guys know very well. That's why picking a memory is super, super important. So if, oh my goodness. So if you're stuck and you're not remembering all the details of that event, then I'm going to encourage you to do what we call artistic license. And that means kind of fill in with some details that may not be true, but sound like they could go in the story. That would be my advice to you, Belinda, is if I can't remember the little details, I might just think of something that makes sense and I might put it in. It doesn't have to be perfectly true, but it sounds like it could be true. Okay, obviously, I'm not going to be putting Chester in his crate and then a unicorn walk in. That doesn't make sense with the story. But I could say, well, I don't remember what Chester did, but he howled. That sounds like something he could do. So if you're having trouble filling in those details, say, okay, what was something that could have happened in that moment? Not dramatic, but what was something that could happen? Okay, that can help you fill in details. It's really about this part though, isn't it? What was the beginning of that page? What was the next moment? And what was the end? And remember, me putting Chester in his crate, that moment, that was only maybe 5 minutes, but I'm stretching it across the page. I'm like taking a magnifying glass and I'm zooming in and I'm looking at the beginning of that problem and the next thing and the next thing. Okay? All right, I'm not seeing any other questions. I'm going to let this video run for another minute, and anyone that wants to type in can type in. I want to remind you that when you type in the live chat, it's not just hi, but when you ask questions like this or when you share something about your writing, that's a way for you to get an automatic green for participation. Is how are you interacting with the videos and how are you using it in your writing? Okay? All right. So I'm going to just give this another minute. Otherwise, you are free to go and continue rewriting, not just adding, rewriting 2 pages from your story. Okay? All right. All right. So if there's no other questions, that's it for today. Video 1 talks about this strategy, and video 2 is focusing on twin sentences. How can you use this to help you add a second sentence? That's an awesome strategy to use in your essay writing. Just write 1 sentence of elaboration. Okay, what happens after that? Always try to do twin sentences whenever you write from now on. All right. Have a good afternoon. Keep sending those photos of the stories, the revising and the rewriting. Looks like it's going really, really well. I'm seeing some really cool stuff in writing. I can't wait to share on our share day, which should be Friday, I believe. But good luck with your stories. Keep texting me your questions. Keep sending photos. And I'll talk to you guys later.